Okay, so um, today we're going to be looking at something kind of heavy.
Yeah.
It's not exactly, lighthearted stuff, but
Right.
I think it's important we talk about it. It's this connection between autism and stalking. And we're going to be using this article from Cheap ABA called Autism and Stalking When Obsessions Aren't Okay.
It's it is a sensitive topic,
Yeah.
and I think it can be easy to shy away from these
Yeah.
kinds of conversations, but I think that's honestly exactly why we need to talk about it.
Right. Like pretending it doesn't exist doesn't actually help anyone.
Absolutely.
So for anyone listening, you might be wondering why this matters.
Yeah.
We often hear about the positive aspects of autism, like the amazing focus and the dedication that people with autism have,
Mhm.
and that's incredible. But what happens when that focus, that laser focus,
Yeah.
gets directed at another person?
Right.
That's where things can get really complicated.
It's like, picture someone who loves collecting stamps, right? They're meticulous, they're organized, and know everything about each stamp.
Right.
That's incredible. But now imagine that same intensity directed at another person, not an object.
Right.
And so this article is about understanding how that can happen.
So the article starts out by talking about how, for people with autism, obsessive interests are a
Mhm.
core characteristic.
Mm.
And, we mentioned collecting, maybe it's researching something for hours and hours.
Right, right.
But the article also points out how this can sometimes morph into this feeling of almost ownership, especially when directed towards another person.
Yeah, it's not that everyone with autism automatically develops these kinds of fixations.
Yeah.
But the article is arguing that some autistic traits can make it more likely for those lines to get blurred.
Okay, so what kind of traits are we talking about here?
Well, one is social naivety.
Yeah.
Social cues can be tricky for anyone,
Hmm.
but for someone on the spectrum, it can be even harder to read those subtle signs that someone's uncomfortable or wants space. So what might seem like, friendly persistence to one person could actually be perceived as intrusive
Right.
or even threatening by another person.
I see. And the article also mentioned executive function.
Yes, absolutely. Executive function is like our brain's control panel.
Okay.
It helps us plan, helps us organize, helps us manage our impulses.
Right.
And for some people on the spectrum, that control panel might work a bit differently.
Yeah.
So they might have trouble stopping a behavior, even if they know it's not appropriate.
Hmm.
It's kind of like their brain is hitting the gas pedal even when they're trying to brake.
So you've got this potential for misunderstanding social cues, difficulty controlling impulses.
Mhm.
Are there any other things that can contribute?
Sensory issues are another big one.
Okay.
Imagine being constantly bombarded by sensory information.
Mm.
Sounds, lights, textures, all of it's overwhelming.
Yeah.
And for some autistic people, focusing on a specific interest, even a person,
Yeah.
can be a way to block out all that chaos and create a sense of order.
So it's not about being like intentionally creepy.
Right.
It's almost like a coping mechanism in a way.
Exactly.
But of course, even if the intention isn't to harm, the impact can still be scary for the other person.
Absolutely.
And that's where the article gets into defining stalking.
Right.
Because it's not just about having a crush or being a little too enthusiastic. Stalking is serious business.
Absolutely. And the article makes it crystal clear. Stalking is about a pattern of behavior that is intended to harass, intimidate, or threaten another person.
Yeah.
It's repeated, it's unwanted attention that causes fear and distress. We're talking about following someone, sending them constant messages or gifts, even when they've said to stop.
Right.
Showing up at their work or home uninvited. Behaviors that cross those boundaries and make someone feel unsafe.
So we've kind of laid out how certain aspects of autism can make someone more prone to these behaviors.
Right.
But how do you even know when it's happening? Like, what are the warning signs?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question.
Hmm.
And the article does a good job of spelling out those red flags.
Yeah.
One of the biggest ones is an increasing preoccupation with the person. Like their interest just consumes their thoughts.
Yeah.
They talk about them constantly.
Mm-hmm.
Their other hobbies, their other relationships, they all kind of fall by the wayside.
So it's not just liking someone a lot. It's that interest
Right.
becoming all-consuming.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then there's the whole ignoring boundaries thing.
Right.
Maybe the person has said they're not interested.
Yeah.
They've asked for space, but the individual keeps pushing, making excuses, finding ways to contact them.
Yeah.
They might even get angry or aggressive if you try to confront them about it.
That's scary. And the article also mentioned digging for personal information.
Yes, that's a huge red flag.
Okay.
It could be anything from looking up someone's social media profiles to trying to access their emails or bank accounts.
Right.
This goes way beyond casual curiosity.
Yeah.
It's a violation of privacy, and it's a sign that the obsession is getting out of control.
Okay, so let's say someone's listening to this and they're thinking, hold on, this sounds kind of familiar.
Right.
What then? What does the article suggest doing?
Well, it's important to remember that this isn't about labeling anyone. It's about recognizing that there might be a problem
Right.
that needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
And the article really stresses that intervention needs to be multifaceted and really tailored to the individual's specific needs.
So it's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Definitely not. But there are some key strategies.
Okay.
One that's really emphasized is social skills training. And this is about teaching people on the spectrum about personal boundaries, consent, healthy relationships.
So like how to recognize when someone's uncomfortable,
Exactly.
how to respect someone's no,
Yes, yes.
how to build relationships based on mutual respect and understanding.
Exactly. It's about giving them the tools to navigate social situations in a way that feels safe for everyone involved.
That makes sense. And I think the article also mentioned behavioral support techniques.
Yes, things like positive reinforcement, using visual aids, establishing routines.
Right.
These can all be really helpful in reducing anxiety and impulsive behaviors.
It's like creating a structured environment that makes it easier to make good choices,
Exactly.
even when things feel overwhelming.
Right.
And, of course, we can't forget about mental health services, things like therapy or counseling.
Absolutely.
This can help address any underlying issues
Right.
that might be contributing to these behaviors.
It's like peeling back the layers of the onion. Right.
Yes.
You're not just treating the symptoms, you're trying to get to the root of the problem.
And it's important to remember that this might involve collaboration with authorities,
Yes.
because we want to support individuals with autism,
Okay.
but we also need to protect potential victims.
Absolutely.
So how do you balance those two things?
It's about finding that sweet spot where appropriate support is provided, but also recognizing that there need to be consequences for harmful actions.
And maybe that means working with law enforcement who are trained to understand the nuances of autism
Mm-hmm.
and respond in a way that's both firm and compassionate.
Absolutely. It's about creating a system that holds people accountable while also recognizing that sometimes people need help,
Yeah.
not just punishment.
So we've talked about the warning signs,
Yeah.
strategies for intervention,
Yeah.
even the potential involvement of law enforcement.
Right.
But I think it's crucial to take a step back and look at the bigger picture here.
I agree. It's so important to remember that, we've been discussing a very serious issue.
Right.
Stalking is absolutely not a defining characteristic of autism.
Right. We need to understand the full spectrum
Yes.
of autistic experiences
Exactly.
and recognize the incredible diversity within this community.
Absolutely.
And with that understanding comes a societal responsibility to provide adequate support and resources for individuals on the spectrum.
Yes.
This isn't just about individual well-being. It's about fostering a community where everyone feels safe and supported.
I agree.
So we've covered a lot of ground here in this first part of our deep dive.
Yeah, we have.
We've explored the connection between autism and stalking.
Mm-hmm.
We've looked at warning signs,
Right.
and we've discussed potential strategies for intervention.
Yeah.
And we've emphasized the importance of understanding the broader context,
Yes.
recognizing that while this is a serious issue, it doesn't define the autistic experience.
Right.
Wow, that is a lot to unpack. What stood out to you from all that?
It's a really powerful question.
Yeah.
And honestly, one that sticks with me.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to get caught up in the specifics of like warning signs and
Yeah.
interventions, but you're right. We need to zoom out and consider the broader context.
Yeah, because if we just focus on individual behavior without acknowledging the environment they're in,
Mm-hmm.
it feels like we're missing half the picture.
Exactly. Think about it. If someone is struggling with social cues and impulse control,
Right.
wouldn't it make sense to also create environments that are more understanding and accommodating?
Right.
Instead of just saying, well, they need to learn the rules,
Yeah.
maybe we should also ask, are the rules set up in a way that makes sense for everyone?
It's like expecting someone in a wheelchair to climb a flight of stairs without offering a ramp.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not about lowering expectations or making excuses for harmful behavior.
Right.
It's about recognizing that everyone has different strengths and challenges, and that sometimes
Yeah.
a little bit of support can make a huge difference.
So what would that kind of support look like in the context of preventing stalking?
Well, for starters, it could mean better education for everyone, not just people on the spectrum.
Okay.
Teaching kids from a young age about consent, boundaries, healthy relationships.
Yeah, like if those concepts were just woven into our everyday conversations, the same way we teach kids about stranger danger or looking both ways before crossing the street.
Exactly. It would become part of our social fabric.
Mm-hmm.
Something everyone understands and values.
Yeah.
And beyond that, it could mean creating more spaces where autistic people feel comfortable and understood.
Like support groups,
Mm.
social clubs, places where they can connect with others
Exactly.
who share similar experiences.
Exactly. Because sometimes just knowing you're not alone can make all the difference.
Right.
It can help you develop those social skills, learn from each other's experiences,
Yeah.
and build a sense of community.
And that sense of belonging can be so powerful,
Absolutely.
right? It can boost self-esteem, reduce isolation, and create a network of support that can help people navigate those tricky social situations.
Exactly. And it's not just about creating spaces for autistic people.
Right.
It's about making sure that existing spaces are more inclusive and accessible.
Right.
Think about workplaces, schools, even just social gatherings.
Mm,
Are they designed in a way that accommodates sensory sensitivities?
right.
Do they offer clear communication and social support?
That's a good point. Sometimes it's the little things that can make a big difference,
Right, yeah.
like having a quiet room available for someone who's feeling overwhelmed,
Mm.
or using visual aids alongside verbal instructions.
Right. It's about recognizing that everyone processes information differently
Yeah.
and making sure that those different needs are met.
So it's not just about physical spaces either. It's about creating a culture of understanding and acceptance.
Yes. It's about moving away from this idea that there's one right way to be and embracing the fact that everyone's brain is wired a little differently.
I love that. It's like celebrating the fact that a garden is more beautiful because it has different types of flowers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And imagine how much richer our society would be if we truly valued and embraced those differences.
You know, this conversation has me thinking about something else the article touched on,
Oh.
the legal implications of stalking. It made it clear that these behaviors can have serious consequences and that law enforcement might need to be involved.
Right. And that brings up another layer of complexity when it comes to autism and
Yeah.
the justice system.
Yeah, because on the one hand,
Yeah.
we want to protect potential victims
Right.
and make sure that there are consequences for harmful actions.
Absolutely.
But on the other hand, we also want to make sure that individuals with autism are treated fairly and with understanding.
Absolutely.
It's a tough one.
It's a delicate balance.
Yeah.
And it really highlights the need for specialized training for law enforcement and judicial professionals.
Right?
They need to be equipped to recognize the signs of autism, understand how certain autistic traits might manifest in behavior, and respond in a way that's both firm and compassionate.
So it's not just about throwing the book at someone because they might not
Exactly.
fully grasp the severity of their actions.
It's about understanding the context, considering the individual's capacity for understanding and change, and finding solutions that both protect the community and support the individual.
That makes me think about those diversion programs that some courts have for people with mental health challenges.
Right.
Are there similar programs for people with autism who have engaged in stalking behavior?
That's a great question. And honestly, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
It's something worth looking into because it would make sense to have programs that are tailored to the unique needs of this population.
Like maybe a program that focuses on social skills training, emotional regulation techniques,
Right.
building empathy for the impact of their actions,
Exactly.
all within a structured and supportive environment.
That's a fantastic idea. And it circles back to that concept of societal responsibility we were talking about earlier. We need to advocate for better resources and support systems,
Yeah.
not just for individuals with autism, but for the systems that interact with them, like the justice system,
Right.
healthcare, education.
You know, as we're exploring this, I'm realizing how much of this conversation is about perspective.
Oh.
It's so easy to just jump to conclusions about someone's behavior
Right.
without understanding the underlying reasons or the context.
That's where empathy comes in.
Yeah.
It's about trying to see the world through someone else's eyes, even if their experience is vastly different from our own.
And it's about remembering that everyone, regardless of their neurology or background,
Right.
deserves to be treated with respect and dignity.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important to acknowledge that the article we're discussing is just one perspective
Right.
on a very multifaceted issue. There are many other voices and experiences out there,
Yeah.
and it's crucial to seek out those diverse perspectives like,
Right.
as you continue learning about this.
So this deep dive is just a starting point, a
Exactly.
springboard for further exploration.
Yeah.
And as you delve deeper into this topic, it's essential to remember that there's no one-size-fits-all answer when it comes to autism.
Right.
Every individual is unique, and their experiences are shaped by a wide range of factors.
Absolutely.
So while we can talk about general trends and patterns, it's crucial to approach each person with an open mind
Yes.
and a willingness to listen.
Absolutely.
Because ultimately, understanding and empathy are the foundations of a more inclusive and compassionate world.
And that's something worth striving for, always.
Absolutely.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
Okay, well, we're going to take a break here,
Sounds good.
and we'll be back with part 2 of this deep dive into autism and stalking.
Looking forward to it. It's yeah, it's not, it's not easy to talk about.
Yeah.
But I think you're right, it is important.
Yeah.
You're talking about how sometimes support can make a huge difference.
Yeah.
So what would that kind of support look like in terms of preventing stalking?
Well, I mean, for starters, it could mean better education for everyone,
Right.
not just people on the spectrum. Like teaching kids from a young age about consent,
Yes.
boundaries, healthy relationships, all that stuff.
If we can normalize these conversations from a young age,
Yeah.
then we create that foundation of respect and understanding
Right.
that can then carry through into adulthood.
But it's not just about kids,
Right?
right?
Yeah.
Adults need this kind of education too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like we all need to be aware of the warning signs
Right.
and the resources that are available to help.
Because, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Even those of us who think we're pretty savvy when it comes to relationships.
Right.
We can still sometimes miss those subtle cues or make assumptions.
Right.
Based on stereotypes.
So we all need a refresher course sometime.
Yes. I love that. A relationship refresher course.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
On how to be a good friend, a good partner, a good colleague.
Right.
How to navigate those interpersonal dynamics with respect and sensitivity.
I think that's a great point.
So we've talked about prevention, education, creating those supportive environments.
Yeah.
But what happens when things do go wrong? Like what about those situations where someone is engaging in stalking behaviors,
Right.
even after all the preventative measures have been taken?
That's where we have to balance compassion with accountability.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that people make mistakes,
Yeah.
but also understanding that those mistakes can have serious consequences.
Right. So it's not about just letting people off the hook.
Exactly.
It's about finding a way to respond that addresses the harm that was done while also offering opportunities for growth and change.
Exactly. And that might involve therapy, social skills training, maybe even legal consequences in some cases.
Right.
But the goal should always be to move towards restoration and healing for everyone involved.
This conversation has really highlighted for me how important it is to just have these open and honest dialogues about these tough topics.
I agree. It's easy to shy away from conversations about, autism and stalking. But that silence just perpetuates the stigma and the misunderstanding.
Yeah.
And so by talking about these issues openly and respectfully, we can start to break down those barriers and create a more inclusive and supportive world.
And this deep dive
Yes.
is just the beginning.
It is.
There are so many resources available
Absolutely.
for people who want to learn more about this.
Yeah, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep those conversations going. Because the more we understand, the better equipped we are to create a world where everyone can flourish.
Ultimate.
Yeah.
Isn't that what it's all about?
It is.
Creating a world where everyone feels safe and respected and empowered to be their authentic selves.
Beautifully said. Until next time, keep diving deep.
As we're wrapping up this deep dive, I keep thinking back to that feeling of unease we talked about at the beginning.
Yeah.
This is heavy stuff.
Yeah. It's definitely not lighthearted, but I think that discomfort is a sign we're onto something important. Like we're willing to wade into these murky waters because we know there's something valuable here.
We could just stay on the surface, but then we'd miss out on all those hidden depths.
Exactly.
And honestly, sometimes the most uncomfortable conversations are the ones that lead to the most growth.
I completely agree.
One thing that stood out to me from the article was the emphasis on prevention.
Yeah.
It's not just about reacting to these behaviors after they've happened,
Right.
but creating an environment where those behaviors are less likely to develop.
Absolutely. It's like we spend so much time putting out fires.
Right.
What if we put more energy into preventing them from starting?
Exactly.
Sure.
Yeah, and that means thinking about how we can support autistic individuals, families, and communities
Mm-hmm.
in a way that promotes healthy relationships and understanding.
Creating a culture where everyone feels safe and respected,
Yeah.
empowered to communicate their needs and their boundaries.
And that starts early,
Right.
right? Like with education for kids and teens.
Yeah.
About consent, healthy relationships, recognizing those red flags.
If we normalize those conversations from a young age,
Yeah.
then we create that foundation of respect that can carry through to adulthood.
But it's not just about kids.
Right. No.
Adults need this too.
Of course. Of
It's
course.
like we all need to be aware of the warning signs and the resources available.
Yeah, because, let's be honest, even
Sure.
those of us who consider ourselves pretty savvy when it comes to relationships can still miss those subtle cues
Yeah.
or make assumptions
Right.
based on stereotypes.
Okay, we all need that refresher course sometimes.
Yes. I love that. A relationship refresher course.
Yeah, on how to be a good friend, a good partner, a good colleague,
Right.
how to navigate those interpersonal dynamics with respect and sensitivity.
Absolutely.
We talked about prevention, education, creating those supportive environments.
Yeah.
But what happens when things go wrong? What about those situations where stalking behaviors are happening, even after we've taken all those preventative measures?
Yeah. Then we have to balance compassion with accountability.
Okay,
Recognizing that people make mistakes,
right.
but those mistakes can have serious consequences.
Right. It's not about letting people off the hook.
Exactly.
It's about finding a response that addresses the harm,
Mm-hmm.
but also offers opportunities for growth and change.
Right. And that might involve therapy, social skills training,
Yeah.
maybe even legal consequences in some cases. But the goal should always be restoration and healing for everyone involved.
This has really highlighted for me just how important it is to have these open and honest dialogues
I do.
about these difficult topics.
It's so easy to shy away from these conversations
Yeah.
about autism and stalking, but that silence just perpetuates the stigma.
Yeah.
So by talking about it openly and respectfully, we can start to break down those barriers,
Right.
create a more inclusive and supportive world.
And this deep dive is just the beginning. There are so many resources out there
Absolutely.
for people who want to learn more.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, keep having those conversations.
Yeah.
The more we understand, the better we can create a world where everyone can flourish.
That's what it's all about, right?
It is.
Creating a world where everyone feels safe and respected and empowered to be themselves.
Beautifully said.
Thank you for joining me for this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.